Welcome back to Continental Club, the show where we round up the hottest topics in European football. Dougie's not here. I'm in his seat. What is going on?
Huge shoes to fill.
Yeah, very big shoes to fill. And yeah, special guest today, Chris Hamill, making his return to Euro Football Daily. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. Feels like 2017 all over again. And it's safe to say that my knowledge of European football has plummeted since I was the host of Continental Club. So I'm here to be educated by you guys today. I'm not going to provide any value. So there we go.
Okay, being very modest and also putting a lot of pressure on us. There, Henry, how's things?
Yeah, good. Ready to teach you a lesson. It's going to be good fun. Another great week of Champions League action. Yep. Absolutely loved the Inter-Barcelona game yesterday. I don't think I've seen a classic like that in the fourth round of group stages in a very long time. I just wished Inter had finished the job at the very end. It was a shame though. But you were at Tottenham.
I was, Frankfurt yesterday. For the Tottenham Frankfurt. I was. It was a lovely surprise to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and actually be treated to a game of chaos. I went with a Spurs supporting friend, and I told him before that I was very, I was getting ready for a kind of 10 men behind the ball,
attritional
Conte
football,
special, as he's been doing recently. And actually, it was just complete chaos. Harry Kane skied a penalty for the first time in his career. Frankfurt, just no game plan whatsoever. So fantastic.
What did you make of Kolo Muani and Lindstrom? Is it Lindstrom up front? Because he's got loads of hype around him at the moment. Lots of talk of Arsenal.
To be honest, they kind of existed for about the first 20 minutes, and then just kind of faded for most of the game. And then when the four subs were made around kind of 60 minutes, and Conte kind of got his subs wrong, I think, as well, bringing on Skip for Bentancur, they kind of came back into the game. But to be honest, there wasn't a huge amount of quality from a Frankfurt perspective. Sad to say, there just wasn't. They pressed really well in the first 15-20 minutes, and then as soon as Tottenham went ahead, they just kind of faded into obscurity. But still have faith that Frankfurt can do something. It's still a close group. I think everyone can still qualify from that group. So keep your eyes on that. But enough with the Champions League, and on to some champions of the future, because today we're talking about underrated Wonderkids across Europe. Obviously there's been a lot of hype around a lot of teenagers over the last couple of years. It very much feels like there's a new generation of talent coming through. We've already spoken long about Pedri, about Jude Bellingham, about Musiala. We even rated them. We ranked them, a few weeks ago. So if you want to go and see what we think of those guys and where they rank among our young midfielders in Europe, go and check that out after this. Today we're looking at Wonderkids who have gone under the radar a little bit more, and we put it out to you, for your suggestions. And you, to be fair, sent in a lot. So thanks for that. We couldn't cover all of them. This is not the definitive list of the most underrated in Europe, but it is a smattering.
They'll get what they're given.
Stop
being so apologetic.
It is a smattering of some of the best. And we start off with, at Caps Lock suggestion, Hamill, Youssoufa Moukoko.
Yes, and I specifically requested Youssoufa Moukoko because he is the most well-known of the shortlist that you provided me. I mean, he's a player who has been raved about since he was about 12 years old. Right, so it might be pushing it somewhat to say he's underrated, but I think if you ask the average football fan about his exploits since he came up on our radars, they wouldn't be able to give you the precise figures. So that is the hole I'm going to fill today. 49 career appearances for Dortmund, 8 goals, averaging a goal involvement every 111 minutes in the Bundesliga over the last 2 campaigns as he's been sort of carefully introduced into the side. Which is totally understandable given the fact he's still 17, which is crazy.
Isn't it?
Right, absolutely nuts. Arrived back in the Dortmund Youth Academy in 2016 from St. Pauli, so isn't a youth product as such, but there from during his formative years, and rose up the ranks, very, very quickly, didn't he? Which was extremely well documented. Playing for the under-17s when he was just 12 years old. Played for the under-19s at 14. I mean, my football career very much the reverse there. I was, made to stay down the age groups. breaking records at every single level and sort of wrote himself into the history books, didn't he, when he scored that winner against arch rivals Schalke in September. So started the season on fire. Youngest ever player to appear in the Champions League. Most recently became the youngest player to score in a match between Dortmund and Bayern Munich. So he's just sort of claiming all of these records, isn't he? It's a really impressive resume, given the fact he is just at the start of his career. And as well as his output, you look at his numbers under the hood, and they're very impressive as well. I mean, 3.4 shots per 90 at such a tender age is really impressive. Most seasoned strikers would be impressed if they were returning between 4 and 5 shots per 90 in that elite band. So the fact he's knocking at the door at 17, like I said, super promising. Also ranks in the top 7% of forwards as well in Europe for non-penalty expected goals and assists per 90. So his numbers are aligning with what we're sort of witnessing with the eye test, so to speak. And it's just nice to see that he's also very humble, plays with a great amount of humility, is super hard worker. I think it's over 20 defensive pressures per 90. So sort of has all the ingredients to go the distance, which you don't know. I know sometimes I say that through gritted teeth when you're talking about someone so young, but yeah, I think Dortmund are doing a really good job at integrating him into the first team.
I agree with that. I just think he's at the perfect club in terms of they've had Haaland there, so there's been no expectations on Moukoko to come in and make a massive difference. A load of amazing senior players there too. And this season, obviously, brought in Seb Haller, unfortunately out at the moment, but got Modeste in, who's been a Bundesliga regular for years. So there's not that massive pressure on him to live up to that hype tag straight away. He's
and just Adeyemi and Daniel Malin also not coming in and sort of setting the world alight. They've sort of taken the up the onus, haven't they? They've taken away some of the limelight from him, and he can just sort of do his business in the background and accumulate those minutes that are so important.
Yeah, he's got a massive future ahead of him either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean. I think you're spot on there. Like, I mean, you look at kind of, Wonderkids from the past who've been, a thing when they were like 12, 13. Most of them don't make it, do they? Like a lot of the time, that the pressure that's on their shoulders at that kind of age proves too much. And Moukoko, I think, you have to give big credit to him as well as the club for coming through. Clearly a very mature guy. Obviously, his all-round game is excellent, and I think he is playing his way into that first team. Like, I think after his performance against Bayern, I think many people were expecting him to start against Sevilla this week, but I think Modeste's cameo off the bench, heroic cameo off the bench, kind of got him back into the starting lineup for that game. But yeah, what a player! Another player who is playing his way into the first team this season, Henry. A suggestion from Tom Underhill, who is an expert on Atalanta, appeared on Continental Club this summer, didn't he? Go and check him out on Twitter. Giorgio Scalvini, is he the second coming of someone who rhymes with him?
Well, they say Bastoni is who he's been compared to.
I was going for Maldini.
Insert Italian centre-back, I suppose. But yeah, he looks like a real prospect. I'm really excited about Scalvini. The book that Tom Underhill has written, by the way, about how Gianpiero Gasperini has transformed and bought into the Atalanta lifestyle is brilliant. I really recommend it to any Atalanta or Italian football fans in general to go check out. But yeah, Scalvini, he's sort of come from nowhere, and for an 18-year-old who's 6'4", by the way, he's absolutely massive.
He is huge.
You would never know that he's so young, and it's funny watching him. You wouldn't look at him and think, here's a player who's going to be excellent on the ball. He's 6'4" at 18, which is kind of crazy. But yet, he is a stunning dribbler. He completes 77% of his dribbles a game. And his timing in the tackle as well is unbelievable. He loves going to ground, which you don't actually see too often these days. But his ability to sort of get around, nipping behind opposition midfielders or attackers is quite remarkable. And there's a reason he's been given an Italian senior cap already, despite only featuring 6 or so times for Atalanta this season in the league anyway. He scored a goal against Roma too, which actually showed more skill, which I wasn't really expecting from him as well. Absolutely. And yeah, Atalanta, who, let's face it, are having an amazing season, sort of out of nowhere, this term. Gasperini got them really firing once more. The future of their defence is looking really good. We've got Caleb Okoli, who was on loan at Cremonese last season. He's been promoted into the first team this year. They've got him. Demiral, still really young, only about 24. And then actually they've got Toloi, who's that senior figure in the back line who can sort of educate these younger players. And Scalvini is very much part of that, although, as I said, he can play in centre midfield too, which is proving to be really effective. He's passing as well. He's got a bit of a menace in the final third. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen to Scalvini. My one issue is that his contract expires this summer, 2023. There's no talk yet of tying him down to a new deal. Even talk they might accept 20 million euros in January if it's offered to them. I know City, Roma, Inter, a lot of these teams are already coming forward and saying they're interested in him. And why wouldn't they be if he's already capped at Italy, playing at such a high level, looks so reassured.
That's him
on the
gone
ball.
to Juventus then, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure they can afford anyone at this rate. I mean, if ever a team needed an overhaul at centre half. But yeah, he's been with the club since he left Brescia when he was 12 years old. So Atalanta can be very proud of what they've created. I'm just so concerned that they're not going to have him for much longer, which is a shame because why wouldn't you want to stay at Atalanta? He could be there for another 4 years and still be a young centre half by any measure. So I'm hoping, with any sense, they can tie him down to a new deal and he can stay there a bit longer and learn his trade and get some more minutes under Gasperini, because what a manager to do it under. And then maybe go elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, with sides like Atletico, City hunting for him, who knows where his future takes him. But yeah, they're saying that he's going to rule the Italian defence for many years to come. They've been relying on lots of old boys for years, and I think maybe this is his time.
There you have it, in the words of Henry Hill. The new Maldini. I'm really impressed by Scalvini as well. I think you know the ability of you know Gasperini to have integrated someone into the side who kind of just does what Romero was doing before as well, and has other elements to his game, of course. But kind of, you know, as a towering centre half, he's quite aggressive in the tackle, who is also great on the ball. Like, you don't come across them so often, and somehow Atalanta have you know reared two of them in a matter of 3 years.
That's the benefit of having really well-defined roles, isn't it?
Yeah.
And persisting with Gasperini, despite the fact, a little hiccup last season, but looking like the second or third best side in the league this season. But I imagine his instructions are pretty clear with his players.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with that kind of high line that they play with that back three. Just a great club in terms of rearing sporting talent, rearing them. Okay, we're going a little bit further up in terms of age for the next one. 22 in December, so he just about makes it in. There was a rule with this, under 21s only. But at Euro Expert, another former contributor to the show, suggested Jeremie Frimpong at Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen not covering themselves in glory this season. Obviously, Seoani's left, Xabi Alonso is in. They're still only 2 points above the relegation zone in the Bundesliga, 2 wins from 9 games.
Rolled over by Porto as well.
Rolled over by Porto in 2 games, weren't they? And so pretty much out of the Champions League, aren't they now? But a 4-0 win over Schalke on the weekend may have revived them a little bit. Obviously, Schalke not great opponents this season either. But despite all of that, Jeremie Frimpong is in the form of his life, isn't he? Yeah. Obviously, Man City youth product. Went to Celtic for 2 years, was it? Impressed
pretty much,
there too.
18 months, yeah.
And then joined Leverkusen in January of 2021.
I think he only lasted 40, if memory serves me correctly, 46, 47 league games before he was poached. Yeah.
Yes, well, there you go.
Special talent.
Classic Celtic.
We're a feeder club.
Yeah,
his talent was very obvious, and it just taps into what you're alluding to there. What a wonderful carrier of the ball, and his numbers are pretty frightening in that regard this season, aren't they?
They absolutely are. And I mean, last season he was impressive enough. He was playing, predominantly, completely at right back. Looked like one of the best young right backs in Europe. 6 assists in 25 starts. Like you were saying, Hamill, progressive carries, 8.3 per 90, which I think was the best in the squad. He was also making as many carries into the penalty area as Moussa Diaby, which is pretty bizarre, but shows just how far forward he was getting. Obviously, Seoane, very kind of attack-minded system, wasn't it? Interesting kind of pressing in the middle of the park and then very quick transitional play. But then this year he's been used in a number of different kind of positions. He's been used primarily as a wing-back in a 3-5-2 under Seoane, then in a 4-3-4-3 on the weekend by Xabi. And then also has been used further up on the wing in a 4-2-3-1. And his numbers have just exploded. He's now completing 11 progressive carries per 90, which is like actually world class. This is what Messi.
That's what Jadon Sancho is producing in the Bundesliga.
That was what, exactly. That's what Jadon Sancho was doing at Dortmund. It's what Messi is averaging this season. It's what Neymar and Pedri are managing this season. I think only Bernardo Silva and Vinicius Junior are managing more in Europe's top 5 leagues. His defensive work hasn't really dropped off, and he's got 4 goals in the league. He's actually their top scorer overall. I think him and Moussa Diaby's connection is just excellent. Diaby set him up for both his goals on the weekend. And Callum Hudson-Odoi actually does look really exciting in that Leverkusen side. I thought he was excellent against Schalke as well, operating in the middle. So them as a 3, I think. I think they can do some really exciting stuff, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when Wirtz comes back, because he's due back in mid-November from that ACL injury. He'll hopefully have some time to properly kind of get back into the swing of things before football resumes after the World Cup. And then Xabi's got some serious
because he predominantly plays on the right.
Yeah, a lot of them gravitate towards the right. Wirtz is obviously quite versatile, but then so is Hudson-Odoi. Diaby can play on the left or right, but it will be interesting to see whether Frimpong is put back into a more defensive role or not. But either way, he is just having an absolutely storming season. Should we go on to Destiny Udogie? Because, similarly to Frimpong, a flying fullback who is in flying form this season. Obviously, Tottenham, have got him arriving next summer, I believe, from Udinese. What have you boys... what have you boys kind of seen from him this season?
Well, I did a 45-second TikTok video on him, so I'm practically an expert. I'm in line to write his
Stop shattering the illusion of our knowledge.
His biography. No, but joking aside, he's obviously no joke of a player, and for them to pay £22 million and be willing to loan him back in order to secure his services obviously sounds him out as a very, very special talent. I think the minutes are going to be great for him. The minutes he's racking up this campaign, serving as understudy to Perisic, wouldn't have been this beneficial. And he's just picked up where he left off last season, hasn't he? So I think he got 8 goals and assists last campaign. Already has 2 goals to date so far, and that really paints a picture. He's a two-way fullback. Like the amount of defending he does, pretty impressive. Over 4 tackles and interceptions per 90, and over 15 defensive pressures. So, like I said, doesn't give up on that end of things, but it's a real sort of tour de force going forward. And when he's in full flight, he would not want to be the opposing fullback. I think he beat 33 different players last season in the dribble. Has a success rate of 65% this season in the dribble. He is just a handful, and I feel like Conte has a great track record of turning those raw ingredients into something really, really potent. So he could be pretty devastating when he finds his feet in the Premier League. But I think they did the smart thing there, loaning him back out. And it feels like he's got a big future on his hands, or they've got a big future on their hands, even Tottenham Hotspur. And one position where you really kind of trust Conte, like I said, to bring someone through is that fullback. And he's playing in the same system already. So. Yeah, good stuff.
I mean, from Udinese's perspective, it was good because they obviously sold Molina, didn't they? Who was basically Udogie on the other side of the pitch. And I think to lose both of their wing-backs who were so important to their system would have been just devastating for their campaign. And it's paying off because Sotil's side, 4th in the league so far, only 3 points off Napoli. They are playing so well at the moment. And I think last weekend really sort of showed what they're about. They went 2-0 down to Atalanta and had the courage to come back. Yeah. So... I don't think you've seen that from a new Udinese side in a very long time. They've got maverick players in there, Pereira and
Gerard Deulofeu.
Deulofeu is just one of these wonderful players. He's just he can turn it on at any moment. So respect to Udinese and to Udogie, he looks the real deal. I worry for sort of Tottenham's remaining left-back, wing-back options when he comes in. Yeah,
Sessegnon, up your game, I think. Because, I think, Udogie's been fantastic. I think he's actually put in one of the best performances I've seen from any player this season in that 4-0 win over Roma. I believe it was at the Stadio Olimpico as well. Henry, let's move to Spain now, because there is a player who, Actor Naveen Kumar suggested, and I know you're a big fan of as well, in Nico Williams. What have you made of the Athletic Club winger so far this season?
Yeah, I can rattle off a few of these. Nico Williams, what an exciting talent. Dare I say, and I was joking about this before, but I mean it, better than Inaki Williams. Who respect to
put some respect on the man who still hasn't missed a game since 2016.
Why'd you have to go there?
Because I'm very excited
Why can't
by
they just
him.
both exist?
He's,
without the comparison. Just the horrible.
Let me explain to you. Let me explain.
Driving
Nico,
a wedge between
Nico,
the two brothers.
No, it's great. You don't often see a player like this come through at Athletic Club. I think that's what's really fascinating. They've got an unbelievably talented right winger. Their cantera has come up trumps again in terms of producing players. It's unbelievable. I think they got him from Osasuna. And he's just an electric winger, really. He's so much speed. I think he's attempting like 4.3 dribbles per 90 at the moment. And he's got one of the highest completions of passes into the box and crosses into the box as well. So that shows that he is so dangerous in the final third. He scored 3 goals and got 2 assists already this season. Bear in mind, he didn't get a single goal last season when he played about 34 times. So obviously easing him in, and he's exploded this time. And he's already been called up to the Spanish national squad, which is, I mean, Enrique's been brilliant at doing that with any young Spanish player in the last few years, of getting them games and finding a way to fix them into the side. And he got 2 substitute appearances against Switzerland and Portugal, which no easy fixture on either of those. And he ended up getting the assist for Morata to score the winner against Portugal, which got them through to the Nations League final. So he's already left his mark there, which is so important. A lot of these young guys come in and struggle to make an impression in their early days. I've watched highlights of him. I've seen him play a fair bit. I'm really enjoying what Valverde is doing at Athletic Club. Like I said last week, massively underrated manager in my opinion. No surprise to see him get them up towards the Champions League spots this year, and it's a real possibility. He's just such an exciting player that can make a difference, and I think he's going to have a huge future. The great Athletic Club have that amazing ability of being able to hold on to their players because they bought into the philosophy of the club. So I'm sure he's in the right place to be for a long time. So one to definitely look out for. The other one I'll quickly pick up is Desiree Doue out of Rennes. I love this guy to bits from what I've seen. Only 17 years old. It's absolutely mental. But this season he's been playing at centre mid. He's good as a number 8 or a number 10. Really creative. Needs to work on his decision making a little bit. I think Bruno Genesio came out and said as much. But his ability to beat a man and his shooting is exceptional. He's already got 3 goals this season, including a winner against Dynamo Kyiv in the Europa League where he pinched the ball, really composed finish. And then he scored last week against Nantes, who are having a horrible season. But it was an unbelievable strike off the top of the crossbar, such a relaxed celebration. He's really exciting. I think he's the first guy born in 2005 from a European top 5 league to score in the Europa League. 17, as I said. Contract expires in 2024, which is always worrying for a club like Rennes. We've seen their best talents in recent years pinched. Dembele, obviously, Camavinga. But if they can just time down to a bit longer, then I think it's brilliant. Rennes not having a bad season, up 5th, 6th for the moment. So Desiree Doue, they just keep producing them, these young French midfielders. It's unbelievable, and I think he's the next one. So really exciting talent.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sticking in Ligue 1 for our next one at Trav Leveson, Dango Ouattara. Sorry if I've butchered that name. But obviously Lorient, probably the surprise package in Ligue 1 this season, still second in the league. And a big part of that has been Dango Ouattara, who's only 20 years old. He actually only moved to France 2 years ago from Burkina Faso and signed his first professional contract with Lorient last year. So I feel like when we talk about young players who are coming through, especially in the last few years, something that always kind of comes about, and it's become a bit of a cliche, hasn't it? Let's be honest, is kind of the maturity of the player and this, that, and the other. It's something that's been talked about with someone like Jude Bellingham a lot in particular, I think. But when it comes to maturity, moving to a new country, at a young age and breaking into a team that quickly, it's really, really impressive stuff. 4 goals and 4 assists in 9 appearances this season. He's averaging a goal involvement every 93 minutes in Ligue 1. His numbers across the board are excellent. He's taking nearly 3 shots a game. He's producing almost 2 key passes. He's completing almost 2 dribbles. He's also making 3 tackles and interceptions. So an all-action forward who has a lot of pace. He's very hard working off the ball. He's decent in the air as well. I think we're yet to see that come to full fruition, but I think this is, that's an area of his game that I think he's improving in. Also has 9 caps for Burkina Faso, scored the winner against Tunisia in the AFCON quarter-final in January, his first goal for his country. He's already a big name over there, as it were, has already touched the hearts of a lot of people. Seems like someone who's going to improve as the season goes on. Who knows how long Lorient can keep up this form, but he's certainly an exciting talent.
They play PSG on November the 6th. And between then, they've got a load of winnable games. I think Nice is probably the hardest team they've got to come up against. And I think they're on a run of something like 6 straight victories anyway. So if they can just hold on, they're 1 point behind PSG. Who knew it, but Lorient PSG would be an absolute thriller on November the 6th. So yeah.
Absolutely mad. Unlikely title challengers, who knows? Who knows? We've got a few left, boys. Anything like Alex Balde, Leo Kovac-Rakic, thanks for that suggestion. Obviously a bit more of a high profile name, higher profile club, but you know, to have usurped Jordi Alba at 18 years of age, who would have seen that coming, eh?
Yeah, I mean, 3 assists, 7 league appearances, and like a lot of the names we've mentioned here, that forward contribution doesn't seem to compromise his defending. These guys realising that they've got to be super well-rounded to break into these sides. So over 3 tackles, interceptions, electric pace, and I think one of the benefits of Xavi integrating all these young talents is that we're seeing a really elite level of ball retention and ball progression once again, but with sort of so it's like tiki-taka football with a bit of a modern twist on it. But we're seeing them being really smart, territorially speaking. Obviously, recent Champions League results aside, but they're pressing with great effect as well. That Barcelona are now a real nuisance to play against once more, and have managed to achieve that within in a way that appeases the fans and fits in with the DNA. So I think he's doing a superb job. Obviously, every time I watch Barcelona, Pedri and Gavi steal the show, don't they? So it's really hard to focus on anyone else. Yeah. But yeah, it's great to see him make good on his promise, because he broke into the side. He started approaching the peripheries a couple of seasons ago, didn't he? But yeah, and Fabio Silva as well. Great to see him getting the Anderlecht side. 5 goals, 8 starts. Because he was just having such a terrible time of it at Wolves, wasn't he? But if you've got a valuable young asset who you want to get goals, send him to the Jupiler Pro, and get him confident, ramp that value back up, and bring him on home.
Yeah, absolutely. Same amount of goals as Wolves have managed as a team this season, just for the record. Maybe a little bit unfair on Wolves there, maybe not. Anyone else to speak out? We've got Kouadio Kone down. I think that's it. We've spoken about him quite a lot before there, haven't we? Kouadio Kone. I think he's probably going to leave Borussia Mönchengladbach next summer. I think everyone at the club has basically accepted that. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes, having another excellent season. Just an absolute boss in the centre of the park. But who have we missed out? What did you make of the players that we've talked about? Who would you like to see us talk about in the future? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to our big match predictions. It's a big match predictions this week. Udogie, no doubt, very sad to miss out on it.
And I heard he's crushing it, right?
But
I heard he's battering you two in the predictions.
He is, and he likes to make it very clear every week, even though it's just all about luck, as we all know. I don't actually have the scores on the doors from last week. We'll run that through next week, because I know Udogie likes to do that. I won't take that away from him. And obviously this week, predictions won't count, because then we'll, have one over on Udogie. But I can reveal that Henry's eternal Desmond Tutu finally came in on Dortmund Bayern.
Yes, you are. It's been weeks and weeks of me saying that it's going to happen, and
months and months.
And Modeste got it. The equaliser, 2-2, sent Oliver Kahn into an absolute spin, didn't he? That was amazing.
Yeah,
Did you see him?
Oliver Kahn slip out of the chair.
It was so unbelievable. But yeah, so I've closed the gap on Udogie, I know that much, so he can eat his humble pie on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kick off then with the first of 3 big hitters on Sunday. Let's also remember that Liverpool-Man City is on Sunday in the Premier League as well. So I don't know how everyone's going to be watching all of these. Pretty much impossible. Check us out actually on FD on Sunday though. We're all going to be reacting, aren't we, to the Liverpool-Man City game. Real Madrid v Barcelona, El Clásico, 3:15 kickoff.
Yes.
Henry.
Yeah.
Real Madrid. How are you feeling about them going into this game?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because obviously we saw Barcelona look a little bit fragile against Inter Milan, but that was a game they really had to go for. They had to put attack first, defence second. And Real Madrid are a team that are struggling to score. So I've not been hugely convinced by Real Madrid in recent weeks, having to rely on Antonio Rudiger basically putting his life on the line to get an equaliser away at Shakhtar isn't a great look for them, but they're still a pretty formidable machine, aren't they? Rodrigo and Vinicius playing at such an exceptional level. We'll get on to the Mbappé situation later, but I think Rodrigo's emergence this season is maybe or more of a reason for them to look away at this very moment in time. But yeah, I'm slightly worried without Benzema. They've shown that they look a bit weaker up front. And this game, I think it's going to be a really tight Clásico. I think it's going to be a really tight Clásico because Ter Stegen is on for a record of not conceding goals at the moment. He's been unbelievable. I think ever since he conceded a goal in the 6th minute in the opening game against Sociedad, he hasn't conceded a goal since. And he's closing in on Claudio Bravo's record, which was set in 14-15 when he was first there. So he's got a lot going for them. Barcelona's defence, I think, is going to be a lot stronger than the one we saw them put out against Inter Milan this week. I think George writes at Football Daily very unflatteringly tweeted about how bad it was to see sort of Piqué, Garcia, Alonso and all in that same side, and potentially true. I mean, some horrible mistakes for the goals they conceded against Inter Milan. So yeah, they're missing Courtois in goal, Real Madrid, which is a shame. Lunin, who's very hyped over the years, he's been all right. He hasn't had loads to do. Let's see. I think in this game, I'm going to back. I think it's going to be a really boring draw. Actually,
really?
I think it's going to be 1-1. I think it's going to be 1-1. I'm not convinced by this as a exciting game at all. Just because I don't think that. I think Barcelona can definitely score with Lewandowski up there. He showed he's a bit of a cheat code at the moment in La Liga. But yeah, I think Real Madrid are going to maintain their unbeaten streak. But yeah, 1-1. What do you think?
One thing I will say is I don't think it's that possible for Xavi to field a super quality back line at the moment because Araujo, Koundé, Christensen and Bellerin are all out. So last weekend they beat Celta despite fielding 3 left backs in the starting lineup. And the Inter back line was, very conventional compared to that, despite Eric Garcia having an absolute stinker. With that, Hamill, what do you make of Barcelona's chances? Because despite all these injuries, they have obviously kept a great defensive record in La Liga. Do you think they can keep that up against Real?
Yeah, as I alluded to earlier, they've been imperious, haven't they, domestically? 7 wins from 8. They lead La Liga by every important metric. Goals scored, 20, pretty much in line with their expected goals, 20.2. Ranked second to Madrid for expected goals against, only conceded 1 from 6, and that's because of Stegen's form, which you were talking about there, 95% success rate.
It's crazy. I've never seen that high.
He's having just the season of a lifetime, isn't he, after a couple of seasons of sort of wavering form. So yeah, they're in a good spot, domestically speaking, but then you factor in those injuries, you factor in Karim Benzema's lack of form, and you feel like something's got to give in that department. But I'm pretty positive. I think Xavi's done an incredible job there so far. Not making the final 16 in the Champions League might have huge ramifications further on down the line, but that is very much sort of upstairs' problem rather than front of house. I think they're going to do Real Madrid.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, even with those injuries, I just don't think, they're in a great spot right now either. Barcelona playing the better football. Lewandowski, I think, is going to score a brace in a 2-1 victory.
Oh, so 1-1, 2-1. I can see goals in this game. I really can see goals in this game, but I'm going to give it to Madrid. Obviously, Barcelona did win 4-0 there back in March, didn't they? In a really impressive game. But aside from that, Real do tend to have the better of these ties in recent years. And I just think
when
that
Ronald
defence...
Koeman was manager and...
of course.
Different kettle of fish now, mate.
Different. I'm not
saying temper your own expectations.
I'm not saying Barca haven't been impressive this season, but I do worry about that defence. I do worry because it's just...
Yeah, having to play Marcos Alonso at centre half.
Yeah, they're missing all their best players back there pretty much, and I do feel like that will catch up with them, and they are playing the other best team in the league this weekend away from home. I think Real will edge this. I'm going to say Lewandowski effect. Barca could score 1 or 2. I think Real Madrid will score more. I'm going to say 3-2 Real Madrid.
Whoa.
It's a big one. And remember, I actually know points don't count this weekend, so the 5 goal point extra point thing doesn't even matter. But I'm going to say 3-2 Real Madrid. Why not? Over to another big clash at the top of the table in Germany, Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Union Berlin versus Borussia Dortmund. Henry, Union Berlin, what have you made of them this season?
This is one for the hipsters this Sunday, isn't it? This is, if you're going to ignore El Clásico and Le Classique, go for this one. I love Union Berlin. What a team, what a story, what a rise. Just continue getting better and better. To have sold A1E this summer and continued to only improve is unreal. But part of the reason is that Geraldo Becker has been able to step out of the shadow and just become this formidable forward. He's so good at the moment. 6 goals and 3 assists in 9 starts. That's one goal involvement off his best ever season return. 27 years old, entering the prime of his life. I was reading, I think he's the quickest player in the Bundesliga in terms of top speeds that he's able to hit at the moment. He's been there for a few years, so he's absolutely rapid. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at him. But yeah, Union, just, if we remember last year, they lost Max Kruse mid-season to Wolfsburg, he got pinched, and they just kept going. And they've only lost once this season against Frankfurt. I think they had a man sent off in that game, and they've just been so consistent, leading the Bundesliga. It's unprecedented. So yeah, I'm pleased with them, doing okay in Europa League too. Stats-wise, they're fine. I mean, they don't even have that many shots, and yet they're continuing to produce at such a high level at the moment, which is what's so remarkable about this team. Jordan Pethick, who I mentioned in the summer as one of the signings to look out for, because they picked him up from Young Boys, where he'd scored a ridiculous number of goals in the last 2 seasons. He's an outside shout for the World Cup with the USA team now. He's got off to a pretty decent start in an Union shirt. So yeah, they sit tight, they hit teams on the break, and they make the most of the chances they create. They're just a very well-coached side, and I think that's what makes them so impressive. And I think they're going to really cause this Dortmund side a problem, who, I mean, drawn to Sevilla. I know Sevilla lost Lopetegui. They're obviously looking to kind of have a bit of a bounce. But yeah, I'm not convinced that Dortmund can ever keep a clean sheet in many ways. So I'm going to go for an Union win here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Union win, just because I'm backing them against a very troubled Dortmund who you never quite know what you're going to get from them. Nice.
I mean, it is true. Probably the best counter-attacking team in Germany. I think they only can keep 43% possession a game.
Yeah.
Union Berlin, obviously Dortmund over the last few years have been susceptible to counter-attacks. Hamill, do you give Dortmund a better chance than Henry in this game?
Yeah, like you said, not exactly in form at the moment. Terzich's men only won 2 in their last 7 in all competitions. But did come back to draw with Bayern at the weekend, so maybe morale is high. Jude Bellingham donning the captain's armband. What a sight that was. What an absolute maverick. He's on song as well, isn't he? 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 4 games in all competitions, including the 4 goals in 4 Champions League games he's got. And I believe he's the first team to score in the first 4 match weeks of the competition. He might have to sense check me on that stat, but pretty sure I read that.
Would make sense.
It's just very good. That's
he's bloody spot on, isn't he? Yeah. So maybe I'm a little bit more positive, but that might be blind positivity. Henry might have me banged to rights here, but no, I would still assume that Dortmund are going to win.
Yeah, fair enough.
What score?
Scoreline?
2-0.
2-0, interesting. I think I'm going to go for a different one from you guys. I was thinking maybe a draw before we started, so it's very convenient. I think I might go for a 2-2 as well. I think that's a scoreline that Dortmund tend to like. So I'll take a leaf out of your book on that one, Henry. Finishing off in France, PSG versus Marseille, Sunday, 7:45 p.m. PSG, I mean, you boys take the floor with this. What have you made of the Mbappé situation this week? Is it a load of rubbish? Is there something to it? Luis Campos, is he going to leave? I don't know what's going on at PSG right now, but it seems like an annual occurrence at this point.
I thought Gautier calling him a lost orphan in the absence of Messi and Neymar was objectively hilarious. Yeah. The sort of wider context of that could have been less damning. I only really read the headline and the subheading. But I mean, this is what happens when you give a young man so much power. He's got the ability to upset the apple cart at any given moment, and it feels strange to me, just looking, from the outside looking in, that Campos would be, upset because he's got exactly the targets he asked for earlier on in the season. I know the power balance is something between him and Antero Henrique, right? But possibly like to comment because I tend to just gravitate away from that sort of nonsense. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't paid much heed to it. Is there anything you can sort of bring me up to date on?
So he's upset that Mbappé in particular is upset they didn't get a Giroud-like centre forwards. That's what he wants because he wants
Scamacca. Are we talking? Is that who he wanted? Did he want Scamacca?
He wants like a target man where he can drift off to the left and he can play 1-2s and knock in. They didn't get that. They got in obviously Ekitike, who surprise after one good season with Reims, perhaps isn't all he's made out to be, and perhaps going to a team like PSG where he's going to always be behind the big players was going to be difficult. I'm not shocked that hasn't worked out whatsoever. So yeah, Mbappe's upset about that. He's upset they haven't sold Neymar, and yet Neymar's having an incredible season. I'm just struggling to see why he's complaining so much. He's still playing in like an amazing forward line. Surely he has to look at the bigger picture here. Surely he has to look at the positive start that they've had to the campaign and think, you know what, we can really make something of this if we just knock our heads together and stop moaning about who's taking the next penalty. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's quite clearly affecting team at the moment. That draw against Reims last week, 0-0. Saw Mbappé come out and basically moaning about that, and then 1-1 draw of Benfica. Okay, not a fine result, but still you're probably expecting them to go and beat them at home in the Champions League. So yeah, it's tricky. He's also moaning that they didn't get a centre-half, and yet we've seen Sergio Ramos really step up this campaign.
Isn't it his fault they didn't get a centre-half? Because isn't he the sporting director now? So he should be engineering these sort of moves.
Who knows?
It's honestly so boring, isn't it?
It is
he just after players that are going to be firmly below him in the pecking order? Is he getting insecure over Messi and Neymar's start to the season or something, that he's no longer...
I think that's it.
Unquestionably the man they have to turn to produce big moments in big games.
In my opinion, that's it. But I don't blame PSG for not spending 70 million euros on Skriniar, who has 1 year of his contract left. I think that's actually pretty smart, if anything. But yeah, I mean, looking at PSG's squad, they've got injuries for this game, which is going to be a problem. Certainly at centre-half, Kimpembe. They are looking vulnerable. Fortunately, they're up against a Marseille side who you don't quite know what they're going to do. Certainly in recent times, they beat Sporting 2-0. I think got that red card penalty early doors, so always going to set up for another victory there. They've looked very impressive against Sporting over the two legs, although the Sporting keeper in the first leg had probably one of the worst games I've ever seen by a keeper ever. So yeah, and
that was stinking.
It was horrific. So yeah, Marseille, never quite sure what to do. I'd love to see Marseille go there and really stick the knife in at this moment in time, because PSG are suffering a little bit and they're not far ahead of the other chasing pack in Ligue 1. So obviously the Mbappé situation is dominating the storyline, but there is points to be had. It's going to be a fascinating watching this one. But yeah, Chris, what do you reckon for a score prediction at the Parc des Princes?
Listen,
home advantage.
I'd be lying if I said I knew much about Igor Tudor's the way he's going to approach this game, this sort of brand of football that he's moved Marseille towards. But what I do know is that Messi and Neymar have been irresistible at the start of this campaign, haven't they? That they need to respond after a week of flux. So I do think it's going to be convincing. I do think it's just I'm going to go 3-0.
Okay, interesting.
I'm going for an Alexis Sanchez winner, 1-0.
I actually think Marseille might win this as well. I just think Nuno Tavares.
Was this why you two are trailing, dude? Because are you resistant to go for the obvious result?
It's a free hit. It's a free hit this week. So yeah,
it is a free hit. If there was points in this, I might be a bit more conservative, but I do think Nuno Tavares is maybe the best player in Europe, as is Jonathan Klaus. Both fantastic wing backs. I mean, they genuinely have been great this year. I just think Nuno Tavares is very entertaining.
Sanchez has been great though, which is no surprise. It's like a perfect team.
Yeah, I mean, he was decent in Inter, wasn't he, as well? And what is it? Is it 6 goals in 9 starts this season for Alexis Sanchez? He has been on song. Really suits the style of play. Marseille's still very entertaining, aren't they? I'll go for 2. What did you say? Did you say 2-1?
I went 1-0.
I'll go 2-1 to Marseille then, because I feel like PSG will probably score. So those were our big match predictions. I actually didn't source any quickfire questions this week. So very quickly, boys, 1 month to go pretty much until the World Cup.
Oof.
Any outside shouts? Any dark horses that you're looking forward to seeing in Qatar?
Yes, I think
putting you on the spot here a little bit.
Denmark are looking great at the moment. I really think that semi-final run at the Euros was no fluke whatsoever.
Kasper Hjulmand.
Exactly. He's such a good manager. And I really think Serbia. I've just got a feeling about
Okay.
them. I just think
Mitro.
Serbia. Just
Wonder why that is.
Mitro, Vlahovic, Tadic. What a front three that is. And then Milinkovic-Savic, who's back playing some of the best football of his career. A sort of vintage central midfielder. I think they've got a lot of tools necessary to have a real crack at this World Cup. I don't think they've got the toughest group in the world. So yeah, Serbia, why not?
Yeah, I have heard a bit of talk about Serbia actually over the last few weeks. Hamill.
Well, they topped their qualification group,
Yeah.
didn't they? I think they were unbeaten as well.
Yeah, they knocked Portugal into the playoffs, didn't they? Yeah, Hamill. Anyone you're looking forward to seeing?
I
Any
think
Celtic boys?
You could probably paint the Netherlands as dark horses at current, just because they failed to qualify for the last World Cup and have had to have a bit of a, well, not so much a cultural overhaul, but they've reverted to type, haven't they? Turned to Louis van Gaal, who's made them extremely hard, shock horror to sort of score against. And they have a very emblematic figure in Memphis Depay, who scores, what's he got, 1 in every 2 international appearances.
Amazing.
So,
almost as good as Mitrovic.
yeah, I think they might surprise a few people. I can't really look past Brazil at the moment. I think you could probably construct a World Cup winning ex-side, the Brazilians that play in the Premier League alone. Yeah, their depth is absolutely scary, but we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough. Good shouts there all round. The Netherlands, Serbia, and who did you say first of all?
Denmark.
Denmark, yeah, sweet. Senegal, I think, in the group with the Netherlands as well. I think have got a good shout of a quarter-final as well. They were fantastic at the AFCON. That's all we have time for on. What's this show called again? Continental Club. That's the one. Continental Club for this week. I hope you were able to deal with the absence of the omnipotent Udogie. But I feel like we gave you a good show. Thanks very much, Chris, for stepping in.
Thanks
Great to
for having me,
have you back on set.
Absolutely.
We really did roll back the years. Henry, thanks once again. Anything you guys want to push to at this point?
Yes, we have top 10s coming out, don't
Nice.
we? Yeah, they're always
You're really
there.
panicked there.
They're still there. I'm just trying to remember the
We
schedule.
Need to Talk comes out on Fridays. We have an Explained coming out, don't we?
Oh, I did it, yeah, and explained on Nkunku and how he
Nice.
potentially might fit in at Chelsea if he goes there. I think Chelsea have got it obviously massively wrong with their forward signings in recent times. I don't think Nkunku, if he goes, would be a flop. I think he's the perfect Potter player in terms of his versatility. I love doing a little Trossard and Nkunku comparison. You don't see those two players
nice.
put on the same pedestal enough.
The new Leandro Trossard, you're saying?
The new
No one's ever compared Trossard and Nkunku in the outro, in the M-board segment of any Football Daily video ever.
Wow,
That's history right there.
That's what we do here on Continental Club. Just make
I
history.
love that. I've been comparing Pulisic with him recently, just arbitrarily. So it's great to see someone else compared to the great Leandro. Hamill, anything where they can catch you? Sunday Vibes. What's going on Sunday Vibes this week?
Sure. So you have to wait 48 hours for it, but Sunday Vibes is on fixing Premier League problems at the start of this season, let's say. And yeah, that's where most of my football knowledge is these days, sadly. But this has been a very welcome change, and it reignited my passion for really obscure, continental stuff.
Good.
Nice. Good to hear. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you soon.